And now for something completely different. I am reading to you from my new book, The Murdery Delicious Bloodstone Secret. Now, you can go onto eBay and order it, and I can sign it for you personally, with a special note if you'd like. The seller, though, is P. Halsey Sherwood, so you have to make sure to do that to get the right copy. But anyway, thank you to my nimble collection of friends for being here. So, as the Murdery Delicious Bloodstone Secret unfolds, a breezy summer getaway with the Chalmers at their newly restored ancestral home quickly becomes a crawl through the gnarled branches of their family tree. Along the Chalmers' journey, readers have followed them through literary genres such as the penny dreadful and the classic whodunit. Now the brothers, their wives, and children find themselves subject to the perils only found in a decidedly ghastly ghost story. So, let's peer past the gate, shall we? So chapter 1. Open your eyes, Reynolds said. Where are we? Tell us, druthers, Reynolds' wife urged the aged driver, who nodded slightly at the rearview mirror, but he did not answer her. Honestly, blindfolding us in this way. Jossie removed the loosely tied scarf and gasped. She nudged her sister seated next to her and pointed. Look! She exclaimed. What is it? Letitia responded, fiddling with her own scarf, equally surprised. What is it? She repeated, asking her husband, Willoughby. Willoughby smiled at Reynolds, and together the brothers announced, Welcome to Bloodstone Manor, our summer getaway retreat. So the house was an immense, magnificent spectre, a grim, leering presence, with a curved porch, preface leading up and toward the innards. It stood in silence, guarded by a towering, ancient elm tree of imposing girth that proudly bore each knot and burl as if it were armor. Impenetrable as it seemed, however, the curious band shared the sense that the house had been holding its breath in anticipation of them, even as the tree and its spiky branches beckoned to them now. The formidable, heavy gate that read Bloodstone was expressively and boldly engraved and unlatched. Quite desolate, Letitia sniffed, looking around, then noting the twinkling village below, appearing as if assembled from a Christmas tree box. But at least I can master my backstroke, she said, referring to the central fountain fallen to ruin, prefacing the house and the circular driveway. We'll get to that one day, Reynolds noted. Although quite desolate, perhaps, nonetheless ideal for my riding. And there are pleasantries and diversions just down the hill, a mere briskly accomplished walk into town in the heart of East Macott proper. Of course, druthers here can convey you. I heard the rush of water, Jossie said, as we drove around the road. Well, that would be Gullet Cove. The ocean crashes into it, just below the cliffs, over there, as you'll see in the morning, Willoughby replied. Well, it's certainly a surprise. We just didn't expect crickets or chirping woods. The sisters agreed with a slight shiver, pulling their shawls close about their pale shoulders. Mama? Reynolds Jr. looked out of the car window. Is this a surprise now? Can I come out? Yes, Rennie, my love, Jossie laughed, scooping him out of the open car. Homunculus, a rescued, creeping marmoset, followed and leapt directly onto Reynolds' shoulder. Willoughby rolled his eyes and relieved his brother of the critter and eased him onto the ground. Homunculus quickly found something to pick at, tucked in the leaves of grass, and tossed the grub or whatever it was into his quivering maw. Reynolds carried on. Isn't this just grand, my boy? Just grand, he said, patting his 6-year-old proudly on the head. Letitia and Willoughby looked affectionately at the child for a moment, and then into each other's eyes, briefly reflecting their own misfortune. They were unable to have children. But these sad emotions were quickly reconciled and brushed away with a cheek's caress and a gentle tossing of the hair. They turned to the sound of their dear friend Olivia Vidley's car, crunching up the gravel driveway, with their daughter, Leafy, hanging her head out of the window. More than desperate to escape the confines of the car and the long hours spent in it, Olivia had encountered the Chalmers family when they were all sailing aboard the ill-fated Murderous, waltzing Matilda. Rennie was just a baby when their lives had become ineluctably intertwined, and didn't appear to remember much of the peril or the boating time. as he called it, in which they were all involved. And indeed, Olivia was still pregnant with Leafy at the time. As for the others, those particular dangers haunted them in restless night dreams, scattered about like ashes. How they desperately wished they would lie and rest at their feet. They had become family during that voyage in every sense of the word, and took comfort in remaining close to and caring for one another thereafter. Amid the genial air of welcome, Reynolds stood quietly with one hand in his pocket and the other resting on his brother's shoulder as they both stared into the house. Meanwhile, Nibs drew back the curtain lace and peered out at the merry group newly arrived to the manor and loosely assembled by their cars. He adjusted his slim-fitting vest and jacket and absently fingered the goiter on his neck. The gentleman he knew, of course, as his charges in some respects, as was the will of his master and their grandfather, Wolfson Perigord. He remembered Reynold and Willoughby from when they were as young as the little ones out there, by their sides. Naturally, during the recent renovations and refurbishments, from time to time, when they would pay visits of inspection to the house, but never stopping for more than a few hours, mind you, never spending the night. They were men of renown, as he understood their positions to be, lofty in their way from another era. It seemed to him the sort of gadabouts and clubmen that he would have attended to in his youth. Upstarts, some might call. A woman born of proud carriage stood next to Willoughby. That would be the wife. A prim lady, Nibs thought, but held enough fascination about her that he surmised she might just harbor a powdered truffle or two tucked into her bonnet. Reynolds' wife, Jossie, she must be the thinner, darkly frail one, he observed. She had been in a bad way for a number of years after the outrage at sea, or so he'd heard from Mrs. Grouse, who had learned of her tender condition in the green market in town. He whispered for her presently. "Mrs. Grouse, come here," he beckoned. The newly arrived, flowery-faced Grouse, despite her name, rather resembled more of a stuffed partridge, sprouting a corolla of gray curls. She gave a final fluff to one of the pillows filled with down feathers, minding the tassels. Reynolds had once cautioned her that tassels mustn't ever suffer the threat of being inhaled by a vacuum cleaner. Pushed her hip into place and joined Nibs at his post. "They're a handsome bunch, aren't they?" she said. "That one, the blonde, is that Miss Vidley, then?" "Yes," Nibs replied. "I'm married with the daughter. Do remember, she is always just Miss Vidley. Or Olivia, as the gentlemen have instructed." "Do you think she'll get along here?" Grouse queried doubtfully. "Well, yes, she has her daughter to occupy her." "No, not her. Reynolds' wife, Jossie. You know, the things I've heard about in town. I'm sure she's quite recovered. The gentlemen themselves have told me so. The quiet here, the air, the sea, should offer a world of good. But what if Mrs. Grouse—" "That will do," he said firmly. "They needn't ever know anything about Bloodstone Manor, or their situation here. Now, we have our newly returned guests, rather our residents, to attend to. So, let's get to it, shall we?" And remember, there you go. Thank you, my nimble collection of friends. Thank you. Remember to go to eBay to get your own personal copy to buy. The seller name is P. Halsey Sherwood. And thank you so much for listening. And God bless everyone. Thank you.